Welcome to the 8th Annual Gene Vance Jr. Day. I'm Command Sgt. Major Dennis Riggs from Gene's Unit, 2nd Battalion, 19th Special Forces Group, Airborne. And I will be your Master of Ceremonies today. Thank you to all the officials, representatives of officials, and organizations that are here today and supported today. As a special recognition to all the fallen, the families of the fallen, and of course, to Gene's family. We will begin the day with the posting of the colors by the West Virginia Army National Guard Color Guard. Bring your formation to attention. Order! March! Bring your unit to parade rest. Please remain standing for the singing of the National Anthem by the Vox Principalis Choir, and remain standing for the prayer given by Neo Leftwich.
And the Please join with me in prayer. Almighty and merciful God, look with mercy upon all those who have given their life for their country. We honor today those men and women, sons and daughters, husbands and wives, fathers, brothers, sisters, mothers, who have laid down their life for their country. Whether weary or emboldened, quiet or defiant, vulnerable or ready, when you called them home, their sacrifice is too humbling for words, except those uttered in prayer. We will never forget their heroism. Loving God, bless them forever in your eternal peace. Let the sounds of strife, the cries of battle, the wounds of war be calmed for all eternity in your loving and endless grace. Let these great warriors find rest at last, ever reminded that we who are left behind cherish their spirit, honor their commitment, send them our love, and will never forget the service that they gave. Thank you for strengthening and guiding those who continue to serve today, and speak into their lives your grace so that they would feel your presence and that they would know that we continue to cover them each in prayer. We pray all of this, knowing that you are at work. Amen.
Please be seated. As we continue the celebration of life and sacrifice, please join me in a global moment of silence at 11:11 a.m., or as close to it as we can all get, observed in Vance Barracks Defense Language Institute, Presidio, Monterey, California, Vance Nolan Military Intelligence Building in Goodfellow Air Force Base, San Angelo, Texas, at Camp Vance in Afghanistan, Vance Biometric Experimentation Center and Hall of Honor in Camp Dawson, West Virginia, Vance Memorial Bridge in Oceana, West Virginia, the Vance Mile, Arden Vance Jr. Memorial Drive, and of course, here at Gene Vance Day in Morgantown, West Virginia. As we prepare to recognize Gene and other sacrifices at this moment of silence, I would ask you to think about the way this has affected families and lives as we move forward, and those of us, and we think of those that are still suffering and continue to suffer. Thank you. We will now have tributes, greetings, and wreath layings to support this day. First, we will hear from the delegate, Ms. Barbara Fleischauer from the West Virginia House of Delegates. Ms. Fleischauer.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone who's here today. It has been very heartwarming to hear the music of the 249th National Guard Army Band, as well as our beautiful choir. And thanks to all of you who came out today. It's a very important day in this community. And I'm going to read you a legislative citation that has been prepared to honor both Gene Vance as well as the fact that this is U.S. Armed Services Day, which has, interestingly, a special West Virginia connection. Whereas the purpose of the 8th Gene Vance Jr. Day is not only to honor the legacy of Gene Vance Jr. of Morgantown, the first West Virginian to lose his life in a global war on terror, but also to recognize all of our service members, and especially to remember the fallen and support the wounded. And whereas, in addition, today is U.S. Armed Services Day, first declared in 1949 by the Secretary of Defense, Lewis A. Johnson, to commemorate the unification of the armed forces under one joint agency. And whereas Sergeant Vance was a member of the West Virginia National Guard's 2nd Battalion, 9th Special Forces Airborne, one of the first units sent to Afghanistan in the U.S. response to the terrorist attacks on our country, which killed 2,996 people and injured over 6,000 others. Whereas on this day we remember Sergeant Gene Vance Jr., who was killed in combat in Afghanistan on May 19, 2002, 17 years ago. Gene Vance Jr. is remembered for his extraordinary valor, saving the lives of 2 fellow Americans and 18 Afghani soldiers, despite being critically wounded. And whereas Gene Vance Jr. was the first member of the National Guard in our country to die in combat operations since the Vietnam War, and the first member of the West Virginia National Guard killed in direct action since World War II, and whereas during the global war on terror, the longest in U.S. history, West Virginia members of all 5 service branches participated and have participated and are participating in both active duty and contingency operations, and regrettably, over 40 service members from the state of West Virginia have been killed, over 350 wounded in action, and over 20 West Virginia members of the Guard have been lost to suicide during the same time frame. And whereas the global war on terror has been devastating to the families of those who were killed, wounded, or committed suicide in service of our great country. And whereas, as we jointly celebrate this day, honoring Gene Vance, as well as all of our service members, it is fitting to remember that the U.S. Armed Forces Day was declared by Secretary of War Lewis A. Johnson, who's buried in Clarksburg, West Virginia, and for whom the Lewis A. Johnson Veterans Hospital is named, and that Mr. Johnson was one of the founding partners of Steptoe & Johnson, a prominent West Virginia law firm. Therefore, I and the other delegates of the 51st District, 2 of whom are here today, Evan Hansen and Rodney Piles, hereby honor and memorialize the 8th Gene Vance Jr. Day and the 69th anniversary of the U.S. Armed Services Day, and direct this citation be presented in honor of both ceremonies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll have Mr. Bill Kowicki, the Mayor of Morgantown, who will read the City of Morgantown Annual Gene Vance Day Jr. Proclamation.
Thank you so very much, and thank you for coming and participating in this event. It's truly worthwhile, and very much appreciate it. I have a proclamation. Whereas the 8th Annual Gene Vance Jr. Day will be observed in Morgantown, West Virginia on the 19th day of May in honor and support of the brave service members of the United States Armed Forces leading overseas contingency operations, previously known as the Global War on Terror. Those who boldly serve, those who have fallen, and those who have been traumatically injured while safeguarding the nation. And whereas the 8th Annual Day recognizes the United States of America's leadership of the longest continuing armed global conflict in its history, in memory of Staff Sergeant Gene A. Vance Jr.'s heroic and selfless actions in the U.S. response to events of 9/11. As the first National Guardsman to be killed in direct action since Vietnam, and the first West Virginia National Guardsman to die in direct action since World War II. And whereas the 8th Annual Day symbolizes honor, care, hope, and healing for thousands of returning as well as severely wounded veterans, their allies, respective families, and communities facing challenges never experienced before in history. And whereas 2019 is the 18th anniversary year of the tragic 9/11 attacks on our nation, the remarkable sacrifices and commitments of the armed forces and the first responders to make to and for this nation, and the unyielding dedication of the Gene Vance Jr. Foundation for the catastrophically injured are worthy of recognition. And it is fitting, therefore, that Vance, the foundation in his honor, and all the servicemen and servicewomen be honored here today and every day. Now, therefore, I, William Kowecki, Mayor of the City of Morgantown, West Virginia, do hereby proclaim the 18th day of May, 2019, as Gene Vance Jr. Day in the City of Morgantown, and encourage all citizens to join in the remembrance and appreciation of the brave members of the Armed Forces of the United States who have served and who are continuing to serve in order to protect our freedoms. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kowicki. The office of Senator Joe Manchin will now be represented by the Regional Coordinator, Mr. Michael Garcia. Mr. Garcia.
Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here today, to be joined by our esteemed military, and to take the time. I don't know if you felt it in the air this morning, but I don't think we take the time to have reverence enough for those that have served and continue to serve us with such honor, and we can never really repay that debt, but I know that we don't spend enough time in thanks, in remembrance. I can feel the soul of my grandfathers that served in the military here today, as with everyone who has passed. And it feels really great to be here. I know Senator Manchin would have loved to be here if it worked out, but I do have a recognition, a greeting to read on his behalf. On behalf of the citizens of the Mountain State and as your United States Senator, it is my distinct honor to welcome our veterans, their families, and the community for supporting this 8th anniversary of Gene Vance Jr. Day. It is with full support from our statewide community that we celebrate today and honor the brave men and women of our nation's military, past and present. As one of our most patriotic states in the nation, West Virginia proudly hosts many events just like this throughout the year to celebrate our veterans. It is the strength and dedication of our community supporting our troops that truly stand out and makes a difference. After all, our great state has mined the coal and forged the steel that built the great ships and tanks that Americans have served on. West Virginia has given so much, and we have so very much to be proud of. I ask you to join me in taking a moment to reflect on the unwavering service of Sergeant Vance and all of our nation's heroes, some of them making the most ultimate sacrifice. For those serving today, we continue to pray for your safety and speedy return home to your families, and it's because all of our veterans, past and present, that we can proudly proclaim that Mountaineers are always free. Today's lovely ceremony shows that our entire nation grieves at the loss of a service member and that their service is truly never forgotten. While you're participating in the 5K or in any of the freedom events today, I invite you to take the time to admire the beauty that is this community in Morgantown, this community in our state. And it is beautiful, obviously because of these beautiful mountains, but because of our people. That's what makes us beautiful. That's what makes us have something to be proud of. As always, I greatly appreciate the efforts of the West Virginia National Guard, the City of Morgantown, the Gene Vance Jr. Foundation for the catastrophically injured, and all those who contributed to making this special event possible to honor and support our service members. It is my hope that today and every day leaves you with an immense sense of pride for those who serve our nation, with profound gratitude for our nation's military service members, U.S. Senator Joe Manchin III. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garcia. Next, Senator Shelley Moore Capital will be represented by Delegate Evan Hansen. Mr. Hansen?
Good morning. My name is Evan Hansen. I'm a delegate in the West Virginia House of Delegates, representing the 51st District, which is most of Mon County, along with Barbara Fleischauer and Rodney Piles, who are here today, and also represented by Danielle Walker and John Williams, who could not be here today. And I bring you greetings from Senator Shelley Moore Capito. Thank you all for being here today as we celebrate the life of Staff Sergeant Gene Arden Vance Jr. and express our deepest gratitude for his service and sacrifice. Today, we honor this Morgantown native as his legacy continues on through all the lives he touched. Although I am unable to be with you all in person, please know that I am with you in spirit and wishing you all the very best on this day of remembrance. Freedom does not come without a cost, and today we honor the ultimate sacrifice that Staff Sergeant Gene Arden Vance made for his country on May 19th, 2002, while serving in Afghanistan. Staff Sergeant Vance was a man of few words, but he lived a large and full life and left a lasting impact on all of us in the process. For those of you who served alongside Staff Sergeant Vance, thank you so much for your service, and thank you for being a living testament to his bravery, courage, and kindness. Gene's life was ended far too early, but his memory lives on through the impression he made on all of our lives. As a mother, I could only imagine the heartache his family and friends must feel, and I want to send you all my sincerest condolences for your loss. I am also thankful for the work of Gene Vance Jr. Foundation and the much-needed support it provides to wounded veterans and their families. This foundation and Gene Arden Vance Jr. Drive will continue to serve as a reminder of the brave servicemen and women who have given so much to ensure our freedom at home. The unwavering support West Virginians like yourselves continue to show for our veterans makes me proud to be a fellow West Virginian and serve as your United States Senator. Sincerely, Shelley Moore Capito, United States Senator.
Thank you very much. Next, representing the West Virginia Army National Guard will be Command Sergeant Major James Jones.
Good morning. First of all, Governor Justice sent me with greetings, and he would like me to read those before I begin my comments. Greetings from Governor Justice. As Governor of the great state of West Virginia, it is my privilege to recognize the 8th Annual Gene Vance Jr. Day in Morgantown. Representing all fallen Americans, Gene Vance Jr. symbolizes the courage and strength of the brave men and women who have fought and died for this nation, and those who risked their lives for our freedoms. By honoring Gene, we pay tribute to all Mountain State soldiers who are serving now or have ever served in war. We owe everything to our troops. It has been said that freedom does not come without a price, and we can thank the courageous men and women of our military for the independence we enjoy. The United States Armed Forces are defenders of liberty, and they make up the finest military power in the world. They are better trained, better equipped, and better prepared for battle than anyone else. I want to applaud the West Virginia National Guard, the City of Morgantown, West Virginia, and the Gene Vance Jr. Foundation for the catastrophically injured for making this event possible. Thank you for your hard work and your commitment to this cause. Please accept my congratulations on a job well done. On behalf of the citizens of West Virginia, I extend my earnest best wishes. Sincerely, Jim Justice, Governor. Sit there. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, and most importantly, veterans and service members in attendance. It's my honor to be asked to address you today. What drives a person to serve their country? For some, it's benefits. For others, it's a lifelong dream to join the military. For many others, it's a moment that stirs their patriotism. During my time in service to this great state and nation, I can say that I've heard most every reason you could imagine. However, no matter the reason, with the application of discipline and intense training, instilled by a sense of greater purpose, and galvanized by brotherhood, they change into something truly special. They shed their labels of civilian men and women and become soldiers, Marines, sailors, and airmen. Individuals that build unbeatable teams, no job less important than the other, driven by a passion to defend their fellow countrymen and each other at any cost, to include the cost of their own life. Have you ever really sat and thought about that? As we stand here today, there are service members all over the world on the front lines defending the very ceremony we are attending. Their very presence stands as a deterrent to those that would do harm to our great country. Separated from their families and loved ones, serving in some of the most volatile and inhospitable environments in the world, they stand as our unwavering guardians, ready to act at a moment's notice at the mere request of their country with unquestioning devotion and loyalty. I thank God for every one of them. This nation was formed by those who possessed the bravery and foresight to pursue and defend a better way of life. That same spirit is strong in those that swear an oath to defend it today. Make no mistake about it, our military isn't made up of those who do not possess the skill or means to attain a more typical way of life. They're the finest men and women this country has to offer. They're selfless, highly trained, morally sound, and intensely loyal. Raised on the shoulders of the brave veterans who came before him, they have built the most lethal fighting force in the history of this planet. A force whose role isn't to conquer and enslave, but a force for good in what at times can be a dark world. The military has changed significantly in the last 18 years. Of course, I'm referring to the tragic events that took place on September 11, 2001. While I sat reflecting, trying to determine what words I could offer the great servicemen and women of our country, I realized that I stood in this very city on that fateful day. I was a student at West Virginia University and a member of the West Virginia Army National Guard. I was on the Evansdale campus walking to class when the first plane hit the World Trade Center, and in class when the second plane hit. I remember the uncertainty, the fear, the anger, and more importantly, the national feeling of patriotism that followed. From that day forward, at the direction of our national leaders, the military has taken a far more active role in ensuring the ongoing security of this nation. A fight that I can attest to you is ongoing every minute of every day. We've lost a lot of great men and women in defense of this country since that day, including Staff Sergeant Gene Vance, whose foundation helps establish this event each year and whose day we're here to commemorate. You see, the military values learning from the past to help us assess and prepare for the future. We do our best to honor the sacrifices of those that came before us, while those attempts often pale in comparison to the value of their sacrifice. As I look around the crowd, I see many great veterans in attendance. Understand that everything we have built today is because of what you've provided for us. Thank you for that. In closing, I'd like to do something a little out of character for a soldier. I'm going to ask something of you. I've been on multiple deployments in my career. I have seen firsthand the sacrifices made by the young men and women, and unfortunately been present when some of those have made the ultimate sacrifice. When things are at their absolute worst, we cling to a few redeeming values: our love for each other and our families, and our undying love and devotion to our country. The Bible, John 15:13 states, "Greater love hath no man than this, that lay down his life for his friends." I can tell you that truer words may have never been spoken. My request is very simple. When our service members have been put to the limits of what mere humans can withstand, the very sight of the American flag and what it represents can move even the most hardened soldier to tears. We often utter the phrase that we love our country, but that, at that moment, that's the purest form of love. A love that most may never know. I simply ask that each and every one of you do your part to keep this country deserving of that love. Take the time to occasionally set aside personal goals and do what you can for someone else in your communities. Take care of each other and know when times get bleak and the evil of the world sets its sights on the American people, the greatest among us stand ready to strike them down. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. Next, President Gee, the school president for West Virginia University, will be represented by Jerry L. Wood from the West Virginia University Veteran and Military Programs. Mr. Wood.
Good morning. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with all of you and have the opportunity to represent President Gee, all the staff and faculty, the students, and the entire family that is West Virginia University. President Gee is unable to be with us today, but he asked that I read a few remarks. I regret that I cannot be present for the 8th annual commemoration of Gene Vance Jr. Day, which not only honors our heroic West Virginia University alumnus who lost his life in Afghanistan 17 years ago, but also helps us pay tribute to all military members and their families who have sacrificed to preserve our freedom. As we observe this special day, may the family and friends of Staff Sergeant Vance find comfort in the incredible work the Gene Vance Jr. Foundation is doing to help the catastrophically injured, especially wounded veterans. I am proud to support that work. To Staff Sergeant Vance and to all veterans, we owe our ability to live and learn, to protest and pray, and to think and thrive. In their stories, let us all find inspiration for our own acts of courage and sacrifice. Cordially, Igor and Gee. On a personal note, I've recently returned home after serving our country for a little over 30 years as a member of the Army. But home to me is West Virginia, and it's a distinct honor for me personally to be here, to be a part of this celebration, and to have the opportunity to experience this moment as a West Virginia native and a mountaineer. The program that I have the privilege to lead and direct consists of over 1,000 veteran and military connected students, and it's quite humbling to know that one of our former military connected students was Gene. It is for that reason that I would like to present the family in honor of his service and as a token of our appreciation, a small memento that signifies his time as a student veteran and a military member as a part of the West Virginia community. So on behalf of that, we have this little token that is a cap. This distinguishes an individual as not only a veteran, but a mountaineer veteran. You can't buy these, you can only be given these. So for that, I am pleased and honored and proud to be able to present this to the Vance family. Thank you all very much.
The Chief of Police, City of Morgantown, and United States Marine Corps veteran, Chief Edward Preston, will now speak. Mr. Preston.
Well, this has been my second privilege of being able to speak at Gene Vance Day. It's also been my 8th Gene Vance Day now. Considering Gene came from the big city of Oceana, and those of you from down that way, we say it Oceana. Michael asked me to speak this year in remembrance of September the 11th. And since Mike asked me to do this, I've had a hard time. I couldn't write a speech. I've thought about what I wanted to say and how I wanted to say it, and I just couldn't, because for me, September the 11th was a little too personal. Most people probably don't know this. Besides being a West Virginia native from southern West Virginia and being a Marine Corps veteran and Persian Gulf veteran, I was also in New York City, 4 blocks from World Trade Center on September the 11th. And like the Sergeant Major said, things changed for our country that day. It changed the way that we are as humans. It changed the way that we interacted with each other. It also gave me the opportunity to see some of the absolute best in humanity. I watched people going into bodegas, grabbing bottles of water to give to the first responders. And considering I was a police officer working in New York City at that time and was in the military, one of the most relieved sights I saw was when the first aircraft came on station and were flying overhead of the ruddle that was the Twin Towers at the time. And obviously there were things going on around the country at the Pentagon and in Pennsylvania as a result. I had 17 officers that I was directly responsible for that worked for me at the time that were in the air during that September the 11th day. They were flying out of New York City from LaGuardia Airport to various destinations around the country. It changed. And I've been in uniform for a little over 33 years now. I've enjoyed every moment of it. I've known some of my fellow officers. I've known one of my very close friends to be murdered. I've seen officers here in Mon County that have died in the line of duty. And as a first responder, as a veteran, as a public safety person, somebody that responds to public service, there is no way that you can do these jobs and be in these places without being affected in some way, shape, or another with this. Our veterans and our first responders, every day that they come to work or every day that they wake up for reveille, know that that could be their last wake up, that that could be the last time that they get to see their friends and their families. And we walk away every single day with a little bit more of the evil that we have eaten. We are the evil eaters in this world. We see things on the battlefields, we see things on the streets, we see things at their absolute worst, and we handle it, we deal with it. And as a result of that, we're starting to see the blowback, the increased suicide rates between our veterans. We see the increased suicide rates between our first responders. We see the health deterioration that happens for these people that put their lives on the line. So as the Sergeant Major so eloquently put it, I challenge each and every one of you who knows someone, now is the time to not let us lose another one. Let's not let them give up their lives. The wounds that they receive in battle, the wounds that they receive on the battlefield that are visible, like losing arms and legs and burns, are not the most serious injuries that they receive sometimes. The most serious injuries are often injuries to the heart and to the mind and the soul. And as part of that challenge, let's not lose another one to suicide. Let's not lose another one. So I'm challenging you to reach out. If you know a veteran and you know a first responder and they have some kind of issue, they're not acting the way that they are, offer them a hand. You may not be able to communicate with them. My father was a Vietnam veteran until I came back from Desert Shield and Desert Storm and spent a year in the desert. I never really understood the way that he had times adjusting when he came home from Vietnam in 69. Never really understood my grandfather, who was in the Pacific during World War II. But as I was experiencing those things, I understood, and my relationship with my family grew better because we were able to help each other through those times. Not everybody has family, but what they do have is they have their battle buddies. They have their fire teams. They have their backup. And so I'm asking every one of you, if you're not in the military or you're not a first responder, you still know somebody. So why don't you be somebody's battle buddy, and some of you be somebody's fire team, and help them out and help them along the way so we don't lose any more to this tragedy that's happening, because we're still losing lives on the battlefield when the battlefield is inside the heart. It's not in Afghanistan and Iraq anymore. And that's all I really wanted to say to everybody today in remembrance of Gene. In Gene's name, think about the good that he has done and his foundations have caused, and what we can do in the future to how much better we can make this place. Thank you.
Next, Michael Vance, founder of the Gene Vance Jr. Foundation, will give remarks. Mr. Mink.
Good morning, everybody. Distinguished guests, thank you for giving me this honor. I cannot adequately express my gratitude and appreciation to the many men and women, family and friends, who made this day possible by their hard work, generosity, dedication, and support. So I'll simply say thank you. Since 9/11, we have been in a state of perpetual war. Less than 1% of Americans deployed around the world are expected to shoulder the entire responsibility for protecting and suffering the hardship of defending our way of life. In this age of an all-volunteer military, where one service member takes on the combat tours of what 5 or more folks in those times of a draft would serve, means there are many less veterans in the community that can share the hardship and sacrifice. We are here today to dedicate this ceremony not only to Gene, but to the thousands of men and women who gave their lives away from our shores, defending the freedom since 9/11. We dedicate this day not after the end of a war, during a deadly conflict, over continuous 18 years. After 9/11, our all-volunteer military stepped up. We must now step up and heal the wounded, not just today, but for a lifetime. Some of us have seen the carnage of war and understand how devastating the cost can be. Yet all of us understand that our freedoms are not free, and that courage, commitment, and dedication are necessary to secure the common good. It is fitting on this day, such as today, that we ask ourselves the simple question: what would our country be without such men and women, our sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, who give their lives to protect our nation? We owe them a great debt of gratitude, which at the very least means providing them with optimal care, not all of which is covered by the Veterans Administration. We are a nation that admires diversity of thought, that thrives on individual freedoms, that seeks many answers for even the most simple of problems. Yet all of us must admit that but for those who fight for such rights, none of us could expect to enjoy them. Thank you.
I will now read the names of the fallen from the state of West Virginia. Upon completion of that, we will hear again from the Vox Principalis Choir for the prayer choir accompaniment. Bring your unit to attention. Staff Sergeant Gene A. Vance Jr. Lance Corporal Justin T. Thacker. Corporal Romulo J. Jimenez II. Petty Officer First Class Jeffrey S. Taylor. Corporal William B. Folks. Corporal Jason N. Mockhand. Sergeant First Class Dwayne A. Thornsbury. Chief Petty Officer Nicholas H. No. Staff Sergeant Asiya A. Shiro. Specialist Danny B. Daniels II. Lance Corporal Bradley L. Parker. Staff Sergeant Jeremy A. Brown. Staff Sergeant Stephen A. Seeley. Captain Benjamin D. Tiffner. Specialist Julian A. Bresford. Sergeant Ryan David Hammond. PFC Richard W. Hafer. Command Sergeant Major Tim Bulliard. Sergeant DeForest L. Talbert. Staff Sergeant Darren D. Von Common. Sergeant Robert F. White. Sergeant Charles J. McLean. Staff Sergeant Jesse A. Alt. First Sergeant Robert N. Barton. Staff Sergeant Roger C. Turner, Jr. Sergeant Bobby E. Beasley. Corporal Brian J. Richardson. Sergeant Brian C. Karim. PFC Michael J. Slater. Captain Garrett T. Lawton. Specialist David A. Hest. Private First Class Ernest A. Stufen. Lance Corporal John T. Bird II. Specialist Brian S. Ulbirch. Sergeant Matthew D. Hunter. Corporal Daniel F. Menringer. Sergeant First Class Jamie S. Nichols. PFC Andrew M. Harper. Corporal Joshua S. Wilfong. Sergeant First Class Audie McVeigh. Lance Corporal Adam J. Crumpler. Chief Warrant Officer 4 John W. Engelman. Staff Sergeant Stanley B. Reynolds. Chief Warrant Officer 4 Brent S. Cole. Captain David E. Van Camp. Petty Officer First Class Kevin S. Rux. Master Sergeant Nicholas Shepherdy.
Thine, O Lord, is the glory, thine, O Lord, is the victory, thine,
Thank you very much. We will now lay 3 wreaths in honor of today. First will be from the City of Morgantown by Mayor Bill Kowicki. Thank you, Mr. Cook. Next will be from the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, Woodburn Chapter Regent, presented by Joan R. Gibson. Miss Gibson? The final wreath of the day will be from the National Society Daughters of the American Revolution, Colonel Zaquil Morgan Chapter, presented by Miss Rebecca Davis. I would like to recognize some of the special guests here today making everything possible with their continued support. Please understand that this list is by no means all-inclusive. Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Brown, Commander, 2nd Battalion, 19th Special Forces Group, Airborne. The West Virginia Department of Military Affairs and Public Safety, Tom Kirk, Deputy Secretary. West Virginia University Veteran and Military Programs, Jerry L. Wood, Director. Greg Carden, Department of Homeland Security and West Virginia Army National Guard. Doug and Jane Gary, West Virginia Patriot Guard. West Virginia House of Delegates, Delegate Evan Hesner. The Morgantown Police Department. The Morgantown Fire Department. Thanks, guys. The Flag Line. The West Virginia Patriot Guard. The West Virginia Army National Guard, and of course the choir. Thank you very much. We will close today's ceremony with the West Virginia Army National Guard Band playing the United States service songs. Bring your units to attention. concludes today's ceremony. Please gather for the official photo.